Well, if we're going to have the left pulling their hair out today, we'll just continue right on down that road. Mark Mix is president of the National Right to Work Committee, which is a 2.8 million member public policy organization. Mark, welcome to the program.
Steve, good to be with you.
Good to have you here. We're going to focus a little bit on the Supreme Court from a couple of years ago, the Janus decision, if you will, when the court found that you could not compel an employee to pay union dues because unions often spend their money and resources on political efforts, and if you don't agree with those political efforts, you should not be required to fund those efforts, right? And now the Public Service Commission in Michigan is going to notify employees every year you have a right not to pay. Is that correct?
Yeah, Steve, basically about 2 years ago, just a couple of days ago, on June 28th of 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that no government employee anywhere in America could be compelled to pay union dues as a condition of working for their government. This was a case called Janus v. AFSCME. The National Right to Work Foundation litigated that case at the Supreme Court. And what the court said was that everything that government unions do is political, and because they're redressing government. They're trying to get government to spend and allocate their resources in a certain way, and that's political speech. In that decision, Justice Alito, who wrote for the majority, said that every worker in the country should know their rights, that they cannot be compelled to pay these dues, and still, going forward, that each employee must affirmatively authorize any dues deduction from their paycheck, and basically saying that they must be notified of their First Amendment rights. Well, in Michigan, interestingly enough, Steve, the state decided to use the old authorizations that weren't up to speed on what the law was, what the First Amendment said about these rights. And so the Civil Service Commission has decided to accept comments about how to basically implement the Janus decision for the classified employees in the state of Michigan.
Let me just jump in right there. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. The Janus decision was 2 years ago.
Yes.
And you're telling me, if I'm hearing you correctly, that the state of Michigan is yet to comply fully with the Supreme Court decision.
That's exactly right. They're using these old dues authorizations, and specifically the court said you must affirmatively authorize going forward. You shall not assume that anyone understands what this new First Amendment right is, or I shouldn't say new First Amendment right. This is a First Amendment right. When you have a right, you have it from the beginning. But the state has not basically gone out and got these new affirmative authorizations from the classified service employees, of which about 50,000 in the state, of which 68% of those are represented by unions and under union contracts. So they need to reauthorize these dues deductions. They need to be informed of their rights, and that's what the Civil Service Commission is trying to do here.
So, all right, but it's 2 years late. Doesn't that put honestly, Mark, doesn't that put the state of Michigan in a potentially difficult situation? If somebody said, I'm going to sue you for violating my rights under the Janus laws that you have refused to fully implement.
Well, Steve, we've been there litigating on behalf of Michigan employees. Actually, since the passage of the Right to Work law in 2013, when it went into effect, we've had over 120 lawsuits on that. We've got 30 lawsuits pending right now on Janus enforcement. So, the fact that we get these laws and these rules and these First Amendment rights, there is a certain group of folks that don't want to implement them, and you can understand why.
Well, I don't like some of the decisions from the Supreme Court either. But I'm in a position that when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, it's what you get to live with. Whether you like it or not, it's what you get to live with. You don't get to go, well, I don't really like the decision, so I'm just going to ignore it. I mean, it's not the way it works. Yeah,
that's right. In Texas, Indiana, Alaska, the governor in Alaska actually issued an executive order saying the state would go out and find and make sure these affirmative authorizations actually exist. And so there's a lot of work to be done here, but we appreciate the fact that the Civil Service Commission has asked for comments. We have submitted comments. The comment period closed on July 6th. It looks like the commission is going to have a meeting on July 13th to consider the comments. I'm sure that there are lots of government union officials that have submitted comments saying that, everything's fine and dandy, but that's not the case. I mean, the law changed 2 years ago with a First Amendment right granted to government employees, and it says that they must affirmatively waive their rights before anyone can touch their paycheck or take any of their money. And the old authorizations don't include that information about informing these workers of their rights to stop this deduction at any time by simply saying, I want it stopped.
Yeah, as it should be. So here's my question then. this is not good news for the Michigan. Used to be, one of the top union states. I think we've slid to 5th or 6th on the list. Top union states, however, continue to be New York, Illinois, Nevada, and California, going by memory. What's that going to mean? What does this mean for union finances and union power, especially unions like the teachers' unions or the UAW or whatever it may be? Because a lot of folks are, if asked the question, do you want to pay or not pay? It's been a tough year. They're just going to say, yeah, I'm not going to pay.
Yeah, Steve. Well, look, if you look at the union propaganda that came out after Janus, I mean, before the Janus decision was ruled on, back when the court took the case in 2018, they had oral arguments, and before they actually decided the case, the unions were saying this was the death of government unions. This is the absolute attack on government unions, and therefore the government unions will no longer exist, and teachers won't know what to do, and classified employees of states won't know what to do, and there'll be chaos and anarchy, etc. And, of course, then the Supreme Court rules 5-4 that this is a First Amendment protection and that every employee must affirmatively waive their First Amendment rights in order to have this money taken out. And the union just recently, the NEA, within the last week said, well, there was no impact in Janus. So if that's the case, if these unions believe that Janus had no impact, then why are they scared of any telling employees what their rights are? Because the quote-unquote services they're providing are so great that no one cares. That's just not true. Steve, you know it, I know it. It does matter. It's about money. It's about compelling people to pay them as a condition of working. And then once that was struck down, making sure that employees didn't know what their rights were. That's the business of organized labor right now, to keep this secret. And the commission, Civil Service Commission, is basically doing what the law says, is the state of Michigan should get affirmative authorizations from all classified employees across the state. If they want in, they get in. They sign the card saying, perfectly fine, take the money, give it to the union. I love what they're doing. If they don't want in, then they're exercising their rights under the Janus decision. It's an important step, and one that obviously, when the commission decides one way or the other, there'll be lots of yelling and screaming, I suspect, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, there'll be plenty of hollering. I'm sure of that. All good stuff. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Committee, 2.8 million members in that public policy organization. Mark, I greatly appreciate you being here. Good conversation. We'll follow it through, but it looks like they've met their match and they have to do what they have to do.
We think so, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Mark. Have a great day.